The education system of the Republic of Slovenia. Slovenia, a country in the heart of Europe, has high mountain peaks, the highest being Triglav at 2,864 meters, as well as 46 kilometers of coastline and one of the greenest capitals in Europe, Ljubljana. Slovenia has a population of 2 million people who provide the country with great potential for development. A key incentive to promote this potential is the education of its young people within the education system in Slovenia. The primary goals of the Slovenian education system are to provide for the optimum development of the individual, offer everyone the opportunity to receive a general education and obtain an occupation, allow the greatest proportion of the population to achieve the highest levels of educational qualification and creativity, and develop skills and foster values for democratic citizenship. The education system is set up as a public service for the most part. The providers are state-funded public or private institutions with a concession that implement the officially recognized programs. Thus, they constitute the public network and may not turn a profit. By law, public schools are secular and the school space autonomous. The pursuit of political or religious activities is forbidden at public schools. The law permits the establishment of private educational institutions that deliver their own educational programs. As such, the principle of choice in education is upheld, consistent with specific worldviews. The vast majority of participants in education attend public educational institutions. Investment in education. In recent years, public expenditure on education decreased following the recession. In 2015, expenditure was recorded at 4.9% of GDP, with a 95% share going to educational institutions directly, and the remaining 5% allocated as public transfers to households and other private entities. The largest share of funding went to basic education, and the second largest share went to preschool education. In Slovenia, 13% of expenditure on education comes from private and 86% from public sources. Stages of the education system. In Slovenia, education is delivered at different stages. Integrated preschool education in kindergartens, compulsory single structure of primary and general lower secondary education in basic schools, upper secondary education, which branches out into general, technical and vocational education programs. Tertiary education encompasses short-cycle higher education programs and higher education study programs. The provision of special needs education embraces a multi-track approach to inclusion. The majority of SEN children and students attend mainstream kindergartens and schools, but specialized schools and institutions also exist. Moreover, Slovenia has a well-developed system of elementary music and ballet education that gives children and adolescents the opportunity to further develop their artistic talents. There is also a well-developed adult education of formal education programs and a variety of non-formal education programs. The medium of instruction is Slovenian. The Italian and Hungarian national communities enjoy the right to pursue education in their respective languages in ethnically mixed areas. The Constitution of the Republic of Slovenia also protects the status of the Roma community and grants its members special rights. Immigrant children have the right to basic education on the same terms as the citizens of the Republic of Slovenia. Preschool education. Even before children take their first steps, as early as 11 months old and as soon as parental leave ends, many parents exercise the right to send their children to kindergarten. Kindergartens are integrated preschool institutions for all children up to school age. Public kindergartens are established and mostly funded by local communities. If demand for places exceeds supply, the public network may extend to include private kindergartens. Kindergartens may operate as standalone entities or alongside basic schools. Preschool education, which is grouped into two age groups, children from 11 months old to the age of 3 and from 3 years old to school age, is carried out by preschool teachers and teacher assistants. On average, there are 8 children per 1 preschool teacher or assistant in a kindergarten. Preschool teachers must have a bachelor's degree, while their assistants must have a minimum of an upper secondary technical qualification. Continuous professional development is a duty and an obligation for both members of staff. The number of children enrolled in preschool education and the participation rate have been increasing. The participation rate stands at over 75%. However, the participation rate of children who are 2 years younger than school age has not yet reached the EU 2020 target of 95% and is still below the EU average. The supply of publicly subsidized places in Slovenia meets parental demand. However, local demand still outweighs supply in certain areas. The accessibility of the preschool system is facilitated by its sensitivity to the social circumstances of families. The contribution of parents is proportionate to their income and asset wealth. Children from economically disadvantaged families attend kindergarten free of charge. The official educational program for preschool children is the kindergarten curriculum. It is the fundamental document that places the work of kindergartens within the education system. The curriculum takes into consideration the diversity of children, respecting the right to choose and to be different. It also maintains a balance between the various aspects of a child's physical and mental development. The aim of the curriculum is not only to advance pre-academic abilities, but also to promote the holistic development of the child. It does not include standards of knowledge. Instead, it includes learning objectives and areas of activities which are the same for both age groups. The areas of activities are movement, language, nature, society, arts and mathematics. Children spend more time in kindergarten in Slovenia compared to their peers in Europe. It is an indicator of the trust that people have in the institutions and of the fact that the percentage of mothers who are employed full-time is very high in Slovenia. Compulsory education, basic school. The compulsory age at which children start school is 6 years old. At that age, all children have to start a 9-year basic school. Basic school is a single structure comprising both primary and lower secondary general education. It includes 3 educational cycles. The first 2 are taught by generalist teachers for the most part, while the third cycle is taught by specialist subject teachers. Public basic schools are set up by local communities. All children get a place at a school in their respective catchment area. Parents may enroll their children in a school outside their catchment area, in a private school, or even decide to homeschool their child. The widespread network of public schools and their branches grants children access to a basic education. More than 750 basic schools, branches included, deliver the regular educational program, and almost 60 specialized basic schools, special units at mainstream schools, as well as specialized institutions for SEN students, deliver the adapted educational program. It is important to observe that smaller school branches are not only educational institutions, but often also assume the role of community hubs. Consistent with the growth of generational cohorts, the number of basic school students has been growing too. On average, there are 20 students per class. The upper limit is 28 students. The basic school program is determined by timetable and subject curricula for compulsory and optional subjects, as well as various guidelines and concepts. In grades 1 and 2, teachers assess the progress of students with descriptive marks. From grade 3 onwards, teachers evaluate the achievement of standards of knowledge and award numerical marks. Students sit compulsory national assessments at the end of grades 6 and 9, the outcomes of which have no formal consequences on the student's final mark or progression. By law, it is not allowed to rank schools based on the results of national assessments. In line with the EU average, almost a quarter of all lessons are dedicated to reading, writing and literature, and almost a sixth of all lessons to mathematics. Compared to their peers in Europe, Slovenian students at lower secondary level attend a greater number of lessons in the natural sciences. Likewise, students also exercise a lot in Slovenia relative to their European peers, and every school has a gymnasium. The number of non-compulsory activities and subjects makes Slovenian basic schools frontrunners in Europe. Along with compulsory subjects, compulsory optional subjects, and class community discussion time, all schools must provide the activities of the extended program. These include morning care for first graders and after-school classes for students from grades 1 to 5, extracurricular activities, non-compulsory optional subjects, and supplementary and remedial lessons. Every school should have a library and a computer classroom, and must also offer meals to students. Basic schools are sensitive to the socio-economic status of students, allowing all students to rent textbooks from a school fund and offer free meals according to a family's income. The majority of SEN students attend mainstream classes. In line with the paradigm of inclusive education, basic schools adapt the provision of their instruction to the needs of SEN students, and at the same time, teachers and counselling staff provide further professional support. The door of the counselling service is open to all children, teachers and parents at all schools and kindergartens. Upper secondary education. The system of upper secondary education is centralised. Thus, decisions on whether to establish and fund a school, to accredit and allocate educational programs, and to open up places are taken at the national level. Due to demographic decreases, the number of enrolled students has been in decline. However, the enrollment rate has not changed. The funding formula is based on the number of enrolled students, so schools compete for student enrollments by promoting student achievements and by offering a variety of additional activities for students like school trips, camping, research, ICT, arts and volunteer opportunities. On completion of compulsory basic education, typically at the age of 15, students may choose an upper secondary school and program, general or vocational, according to their interests and aspirations. At this point, the tracking of students begins. If the number of candidates exceeds the number of open places, the national selection criteria apply, which mainly take into consideration the student's previous learning outcomes. Over 60% of students enroll in technical or vocational programs. Girls tend to opt for general programs more often than boys do. Vocational education comprises programs of various lengths, which may or may not provide access to tertiary education. The programs aim to give students qualifications for specific occupations before they enter the labour market. These types of programs may be short vocational, vocational technical, or technical. They all cater for employer-based practical training. The open part of the curriculum, which is specified by schools in conjunction with local companies, guarantees flexibility. Students complete vocational programs with a leaving examination designed at the school level. At the end of vocational technical and technical programs, students take the national examination, the vocational matura, which gives them access to tertiary education. General education includes general and technical gymnasia programs, which aim to prepare students to continue their education at a university. All gymnasia programs have compulsory and elective parts and include 2 compulsory foreign languages. At the end of these 4-year programs, students take the national matura examination. The general matura is the external national examination in 5 subjects. The vocational matura is the national examination of tests designed externally in 4 subjects that students take before a school examination committee. Students also present a final technical product or seminar. All upper secondary schools have a library and provide career guidance and student support through school counselling services. Students enjoy the right to income-related subsidies for school meals and may apply for need-based scholarships. Those for talented students are also available. In Slovenia, most upper secondary students finish school. According to Eurostat data, Slovenia has reached the ET 2020 target to reduce the percentage of early leavers from education and training to less than 10%. Tertiary education. Over half of all 19-year-olds in Slovenia pursue tertiary education. Slovenia exceeded the specific target of the Europe 2020 strategy, which states that 40% of 30 to 34-year-olds hold a tertiary educational qualification. In 2015 in Slovenia, the number was 43.4%. Tertiary education in Slovenia includes short-cycle higher vocational education and higher education. Students pursue short-cycle higher vocational education at higher vocational colleges. These 2-year practice-oriented programs are based on the needs of the economy and aim to equip students with competencies in accordance with vocational and professional standards. Graduates learn skills to manage, plan and supervise work processes. The most common enrollment requirement is the vocational or general matura certificate. A significant proportion of students attend private colleges. Students may pursue all 3 cycles of higher education at universities and independent higher education institutions. In the first study cycle, students enroll on professional or academic undergraduate study programs. The second and third study cycles are postgraduate and include master's and integrated master's and PhD study programs respectively. The most common enrollment requirement for undergraduate study is the General Matura certificate. If there is a cap on places, the selection criteria extend to include the candidate's Matura results and learning outcomes in the last 2 years of upper secondary school, or even the learning outcomes in specific subjects or the results of talent testing. Access to tertiary education is one of the objectives of the Slovenian education system, which is why all citizens have the opportunity to enroll on the study program at any time in their lives, provided that they meet the specific enrollment requirements. 85% of all students enrolled on the first and second cycle study programs study on state-subsidized places and do not pay fees. The social dimension of tertiary education allows those holding the status of a student access to the student job market, the right to subsidized meals, transportation and student accommodation, and health insurance for the whole duration of the study. Talented students may apply for merit-based scholarships and socio-economically disadvantaged students for state scholarships. Both types of scholarship are internationally transferable to support student mobility. Slovenia has one of the lowest rates of student credit mobility in Europe, as well as significantly low numbers of international students. The internationalization of higher education, which seeks to promote student and staff mobility as a key component of a Slovenian higher education community that is open to the international environment, is one of the strategic goals for the development of higher education in Slovenia. Quality assurance, yet another important goal of the tertiary education system, is overseen by the Slovenian Quality Assurance Agency, which enforces quality standards and adheres to the stipulations of the European higher education area. Trends in educational attainment and student achievement. Between 2000 and 2015, there was a demonstrable trend towards an improved level of educational qualifications amongst the general population, and amongst young people in particular. At the turn of the millennium, the proportion of 25 to 34-year-olds with less than an upper secondary educational qualification was considerably below the OECD average, and it continued to fall. In 2015, only 6% of 25 to 34-year-olds had below an upper secondary educational qualification. In the last 10 years, the proportion of people aged between 25 to 34 years who have attained a tertiary educational qualification has improved significantly compared to the average in OECD countries. The gap between Slovenia and the OECD average narrowed from 7% to only 1%. The attainment rate, which was below the EU average a decade ago, has overtaken the European average. The learning achievements of Slovenian students have also improved in recent years. The Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, TIMSS 2015, ranked the performance of Slovenian 4th graders and 8th graders in these subjects above average relative to their peers from participating countries. Since 1995, when Slovenia first participated in the study, there has been a notable positive trend in performance. While the results in both fields were above average, the outcomes in natural sciences placed Slovenian basic school students among the most successful. 8th graders were top performers, together with East Asian students. One of the EU strategic targets in education aims to decrease the proportion of those who do not demonstrate basic skills in mathematics, science and reading. The latest results of the PISA study show that Slovenia has been successfully approaching the ET 2020 strategic target, while EU countries on average strayed from the set target, which aims to have less than 15% of low achievers. A comparison of PISA study data from 2012 and 2015 reveals a certain stability of outcomes in natural sciences and an increase in mathematical and reading skills amongst Slovenian students. In all three fields of literacy, Slovenian students performed above average in 2015. Particularly encouraging was the increase in reading skills, because reading literacy proved to be a weak spot for Slovenian students in previous cycles of the study, with their results below the OECD average in the past. The increase in average learning outcomes was influenced by an increase in the number of students with top results and a decrease in the number of students with poor results. Slovenia was the only country in the 2015 study to demonstrate those two positive trends simultaneously.